I've noticed that there's a chapter of this book that you have not mentioned at all.
Which is?
For reasons that I think will become obvious.
Okay.
It's the chapter where I attack Harvard University, your alma mater.
I'm all in favor of attacking Harvard University.
There is an extended assault.
I wasn't hiding from that chapter. There's so much to talk about, but you talk about how it starts with Harvard has a women's rugby team.
Yeah,
and you basically say, why? Why? And you go ahead. You take it. And by the way, I was on the women's rugby team. I got a scholar. That's how I got my scholarship.
You should. First of all, I should say parenthetically that no one spends more time attacking the Ivy League than me. That's why God put me on this earth. I feel that's my.
Yeah.
I've done it so many times on my podcast that whenever I come up with my new attack, which I do every year, everyone just in the room just rolls their eyes. We could do a whole put Malcolm on the couch. Why is he so obsessed with him? But put that aside. The particular argument here is based on, I'm trying to figure out Harvard University, where you attended,
Sure.
is...
I can't hide from that anymore.
You can't hide from that anymore.
1981 to 85.
Yeah. They plays more Division I sports than any other college in the country. No one else is even close. People don't realize this. You always think the big sports school is like Clemson or something. No. It's Harvard. They have more student athletes than anyone else. And not only that, they give a massive admissions preference to their recruited athletes. So the easiest way to get into Harvard is not to be the best student in your class. It's to be the best athlete in your class.
But also very specific athletic endeavors.
Yeah. So the sports they really, 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 really care about are, and let's see whether you can detect some kind of common denominator, rowing, fencing, sailing, rugby, tennis. It's country club sports, right? So I do a whole chapter on why would they bend over backwards to participate in all of these country club sports, and not only that, to give basically to do an affirmative action program for the athletes in the sports. And the answer is because they, a sport like tennis, to be a recruited tennis player, you have to play Division I tennis. To play Division I tennis, your parents have to be willing to spend $50 to $100,000 a year in your game.
It's enormously expensive.
Enormously expensive. So when I say I'm setting aside 4 admission slots every year for tennis players, what I'm really saying is I'm setting aside 4 admission slots for the children of people who have enough money to spend $100,000 on their kids' ground strokes. So it's a way of making sure that enough rich kids attend your school. It's really obvious.
Yeah.
Right? And this drives me crazy because I'm someone who believes very strongly in the idea of a meritocracy. And if you want to have, and I think it's one of the most beautiful things about this country, and the idea that the symbol of the reigning symbol of meritocracy in this country is essentially going out of its way to reward kids who play rich kids sport. Like they give an admissions preference for kids who are good at sailing. Like it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Well, maybe they're going to grow up to be fishermen, lobstermen. They're going to probably go to sea and explore the oceans. I think most of those kids are going to end up, right, hauling crab.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's why they're doing it.
Yeah, I think so. Well, there's another, okay, this brings up another point, which is that, because when I read that, I thought, shit, I should have done some fencing. I worked way too hard in high school.
That would have been much easier.
Yeah, I should have been a champion beekeeper. But the bigger point is that people can eventually game anything. That's the way I feel about it, is that because the other point is, okay, let's set all the rich kids who are playing those sports aside and say, okay, we really want it to be a meritocracy, so we're going to have it be about the SAT.
Mm-hmm.
People can game that because parents hire SAT tutors. There's billions of dollars spent a year making sure that kids are very familiar with that test. I think it still does test people who are, but what I'm saying is that no matter what you do, I mean, we've seen this on Wall Street a million times. You set up these rules, someone will find a small crack. Someone will say, hey, wait a minute, no one ever said anything about mortgage-backed securities. Bang!
Yeah.
Everybody's doing it, and then the whole system collapses, and we wonder, wait a minute, why did that guy who works on a garbage truck own 9 properties? You know, what is going on?
I once, speaking of the SAT, I once challenged my assistant to the LSAT. She was, I thought it was really fun. I got a tutor.
Yep.
I went through that whole process. And the hilarious thing, of course, about the tutor was the first thing he said is I had to learn to, quote, process without understanding, which...
What?
Meaning, which I thought was hilarious because it's a test designed to measure your aptitude for being a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And the test for being a lawyer you can only do well as if you learn how to process without understanding. If my lawyer came to me and said, I processed your case without understanding it, I think I'd be a little bit alarmed.
Yeah.
But so that it was like, it
sounds like a good lawyer, though.
Yeah.
And I have a lot to say about the Little Mermaid. That's not contract law.
No, but it does. I never, because in Canada, we don't have, I'm Canadian, we don't have standardized tests. So I knew nothing about these. I would come, I moved to America after college, and I hear people talk about the SAT, and it sounds like some kind of strange holy rite, And I was so kind of curious that at a certain point in my life, I decided I had to do, and I went, I sat in that big room with hundreds of other people. I was the only person over the age of like 25, and I ended up tying my assistant.
Oh, okay.
Which I thought was good. The money was on her because she's 24, and the general consensus around the office is I didn't stand a chance because I've obviously lost so many brain cells.
Yeah.
So it was like,
what was your score?
I don't remember. It was not impressive. Basically, I was headed for a mediocre law school, which that's fine. Someone's got to be a mediocre.
Well, here's the other thing too. I mean, I've said this to everybody I've ever encountered in this business is that I have had the privilege of working with so many talented, amazing, funny people who are great at what they do. And often I don't know where they went to college.
Yeah.
Because the amount of pressure we put on that in this country is insane.
Yeah.
And you talk a lot about resilience and people who are not from a monoculture, but people who are forced to be resilient and the great benefits that has. And I don't know, I'm always...
I thought you were going to tell us your SAT score. I thought that's where you were headed.
I intentionally forgot my SAT score. I selected which brain cells I could forget, and I forgot those.